Hey there, Michael here at More to Wonder. This week, our study in Micah 5. We're building bridges to understanding the Bible, and we're going to take a deep look at Micah 5. I'm excited about this study. As I've been working at it, I've been discovering more and more each time, and it just gives me more to wonder, and I want to share that with you. I hope you'll be blessed by the study. So the background to Micah 5 is important as we think about this prophecy concerning the Messiah. The Syrian invasion of about 700 BC under Sennacherib distressed God's people greatly. And in response to that, Micah utters a prophecy. First, God judges Israel's leaders. He denounces Israel's oppressors. And then he also promises restoration. It's important to note that any time you look at Scripture, there are two essential themes that recur in parallel. One is judgment, one is restoration. One is justice, one is mercy. They come in pairs like that. And so there's purpose in adversity. Micah's earlier prophecies in the earlier chapters address God's judgment, but God does not despair. Rather, he sees this as opportunity to save and redeem his people. So let's read the text. But as for you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you one will come forth, for me to be ruler in Israel. His times of coming forth are from long ago, from the days of eternity. Now you notice I've highlighted the verbs, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the lesson. So, first key idea. Location of the Messiah's birth aligns with a theocratic rule ordained by God. This is an essential idea. It was essentially a sin for Israel to ask for a king in the first place, and the first king, Saul, was a disaster, and then the Davidic line God blessed because David was a man after God's own heart. Yet it was a theocracy. It was intended to be a theocracy. David served under God's rule. And so this kingly line of David comes from Bethlehem. This is important to the scripture in Micah 5. And then it's also this king's service is under God, under the theocracy of God. So God's reign emanates from Bethlehem, not Jerusalem. This is significant. The rulers in Jerusalem were corrupt, and God sends his anointed leader to replace those corrupt leaders. And then only the rule of God executes perfected justice and mercy. And this is a great idea here that we derive from the first two ideas. Now, the locations related to the Messiah corresponds to the symbolic meanings of the names. So let's take those names. First, Bethlehem, the Hebrew compound, literally Beit Lehem, house of bread. Bread is a staple of sustenance and alludes to Christ as the essence of life. Meat, on the other hand, was a delicacy reserved for religious festivals, such as the Passover, and this signifies Christ's body as a sacrifice on the cross for his people. Now, Ephrathah is a fertile valley just outside of Bethlehem. So Bethlehem Ephrathah, that compound there, has both a sense of sustenance, but it also has a sense of prosperity. The valley, well known for olive trees and grapevines, these are symbols of prosperity and peace. We throw out an olive branch, right? It's something we offer in peace, but the olive oil itself gives light. That's what they used to burn in the lamps. The grapevines, the fruit of the vine, This is also symbolized in the cup, as in partnership with the bread at communion, as we celebrate it today. All these themes tie together so neatly and so perfectly. Gives us more to wonder right in those kind of details. Now, Israel is the third name that comes up in this verse, and it means literally one who strives with God. Israel. El is the name of God. And so God changes Jacob's name from the supplanter. Jacob has an experience where he wrestles, and his name, Yaakov, means supplanter. He was grasping at the heel of his brother Esau as he came out, his twin brother. It symbolizes a striving with man, which refers to disharmony and stress. But God gives Jacob a new name, one who strives with God, Israel. This is significant because there's a transformation in this name, but there's also a transformation in this verse from despair to peace. And we'll see that as we continue in this study. Now, the main verb finds clarification from the ancillary verbs, complements which add details. When we talk about infinitives or participles, these other kinds or forms of verbs, they complement the main verb. But as for you, Bethlehem of Ephrathah, too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you will come forth for me to be ruler in Israel. His times of coming forth are from long ago. And so let's take a look at the first, will come forth. This is the main verb. It's a call imperfect. This is significant because the imperfect means that the action is simply stated without reference to time. And this means that this coming forth is not constrained by time, but it has an essence of perpetuity. It emphasizes not only the coming forth, but in the advent of the Messiah, but it also carries the idea of a growth. So this rule of God will grow and perpetuate. The to be here, to be among the clans of Judah, too little to be among, is an emphatic infinitive. And the to be also, to be ruler, signifies transformative from little to great. So Bethlehem, or Israel, in its little state, okay, Bethlehem, there's this transformation from little to great. There's this movement of the Messiah from humble to great. And the coming forth here, down in this last part, denotes the origin of his now coming. Okay, so it's a participle. It is modifying this come forth. Okay, so it says, will come forth from where? That's how it complements that idea. Now, ruler is a participle, literally means one who rules in Israel, meaning God's kingdom. Now, the R here is just supplied for a natural English translation, is coming forth from long ago. The Hebrew literally reads without the verb, but we supply that for the translation. So that's of no significance here. So this to be here is emphatic. It's emphatic. That means that this is absolute. Too little to be among the clans of Judah, but he will be a ruler in Israel. All right, the prepositions make big statements and connections with the verbs, and that's what I want to talk about next. So prepositions are the little words that point to place, time, or relationship, such as for. So for you, Bethlehem, which is a lowly status. As for you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, So a lowly status, a low place. For me, one will come forth for me. It's a representative of God's authority for the lowly. This is significant in that this Messiah comes as a representative of God to advocate for the lowly. Now, from denotes origin, and from you. Now, from you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, will coming forth. It signifies the earthly birth in the line of David. And then from long ago, the days of eternity, this is the divine origin. And this conjoins the idea of Christ, the Messiah, as fully God and fully man. In Israel, finally our last preposition, our little word, specifies the rule of God for the benefits of his people. This is where God will rule and suggests the presence of God in the midst. And the presence of God is an important idea when we think of the sense of God's peace, God's prosperity. When God is present, he brings those things into our midst. Our last idea here, keywords in parallel illustrate the Messiah's birth and origin. From the days of eternity, from long ago. This is a parallel, an emphatic construction. He repeats himself here. From long ago, from days of eternity, or ancient days, as some translations render the word. Let's take a look at the Hebrew word yom. It refers to a period of time or era here, not necessarily a single day. Now, many times in Scripture it does refer to a single day, such as in creation, but in this particular case, because the days of eternity are a period of time, and because eternity transcends time, as we understand it, it is, even though it's in the singular, from the day of eternity, it means a particular era. But this word ancient, the word translated eternity here, or ancient, is antecedent to creation. Motsa'ah, the Hebrew word, it refers to something before creation. It's a very specific word. In fact, it's used in Genesis 3 in this same way. And it signifies the Messiah's divinity. And when we think of this conjoining of Christ's earthly birth and his divine origin, it parallels this idea of the virgin birth in 7:14, and I hope to get into a study of that soon. One other little word, but as for you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, this denotes a transformation. In advance of this, Micah referred to the despair, the judgment of God, and the oppression of the Assyrian rulers. But he's saying now something different has happened. Well, that's what we mean by adversative. So it denotes a transformation. It's a movement from God, from despair to salvation. It's the work of God, and it assumes the purpose of the coming forth. These are all important ideas. So what's our central message here? God ordains his son's birth in Bethlehem in order to save his people. Key features: the places, Bethlehem Ephrathah and Israel, signify God's reign. The comparison of Bethlehem to other clans signifies humility. The verb arrangement, one main verb, denotes the movement of God. It's a singular movement and defined in many ways in terms of his authority, in terms of his humility. And then finally, the prepositions point to key details in this verse conjoins the Messiah's earthly and heavenly origins. So that puts it all together. In summary, the birth of Jesus of Nazareth in Bethlehem fulfills a prophecy concerning the Messiah.